My guest today is Jeff Hancock. Jeff is the CEO of Coinpass, which is a leading UK-based crypto exchange. Welcome to the show, Jeff.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you very much for having me today.
An absolute pleasure, Jeff. Let's do what we do at the beginning of the show. It would be super cool if you could please introduce yourself. Would love to hear some of your personal and professional backstory. Yeah, just tell us a little bit of what you've been doing in the lead up to becoming, CEO at Coinpass.
No, excellent. So, I started my career originally in tech and IT. I did infrastructure and cybersecurity at casinos back in Australia, up and down the East Coast. I moved to the UK in 2010 and took that IT career into data centers and businesses. I worked with a managed service provider in London, and that took me traveling all over the UK, looking after data centers, looking after businesses, going into businesses and finding out their kind of technical problems, and then kind of starting to slowly relate that into business goals. So I was kind of working with business owners to achieve, positive outcomes. And then my kind of last, in quotes, kind of real job before we started this was at SoftBank at the Vision Fund in London, one of the largest kind of private equity hedge funds in the world. And the kind of scale and rate that they were doing stuff really kind of, I suppose, push my own boundaries of my career. And I suppose my investment thesis is that you try and go to market as fast as you can, build something that people want to use, and always try to, you never want to be the weakest link in a room like that. And in 2017, I think it was, I'd been in crypto for about 2 years or so. I was talking with a few people, and Bitcoin was $3,000 at the time, or £3,000, like really low point of the market. And people ask me, how do I buy, 10 Bitcoin in the UK without using US dollars? You have to send it to another country. The prices aren't very good. The spreads aren't very good. And my advice back then was to simply, swap to US dollars and get on with it. Accept that's just the world we live in. And so why isn't there something better in the UK for average users or high net users or businesses, etc. And after watching maybe a little bit too much Top Gear or other influencers and stuff like that, I may have said, how hard can it be? And then, about 12 months later, we had a crypto exchange launched in the UK in 2018.
Very good. Well, if you watch Jeremy Clarkson on Clarkson's Farm, the answer to how hard can it be is very hard indeed sometimes, Jeff.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, the original business plan, which is still on my wall in the hallway, is, an A5 piece of paper with a very, very basic business plan on it, a hand-drawn infrastructure, and then, a financial model at the bottom, which is about 2 lines and a few calculations. And we're kind of not far off, where that original drawing was from. But all the pieces of the pie that go towards building a crypto exchange, from the banking side, the onboarding, compliance, risk, trading, custody, settlement, all of those kind of pieces, that's where the complexity comes from. And all that kind of, magic behind the scenes is kind of what we've been building the last 7 years.
So does that mean you guys with Coinpass were one of the, definitely one of the first, one of the early UK crypto exchanges then?
So there were a few platforms before us, but all of their liquidity was swapped from US dollars. So really, you were getting no competitive edge in actually trading in UK British pounds. So the pricing would always be pegged to the US dollars. You were having to send your pound sterling to another country, i.e. Lithuania, Estonia, Latvia, something like that, where they could actually get banking back in those days. And they would literally take your pounds, swap them to dollars, then offer you a trading platform. You would see it in GBP, but it wouldn't be a very authentic experience. And it was slow and it was cloggy. And, back in 2015, 16, 17, sending a great deal of capital to a crypto platform in Europe with no licensing would obviously throw some red flags up as well. How we wanted to do it differently is we wanted to have a UK founded company, a UK based business, UK based team, UK based banking, and UK based support. And we've carried that all the way through. I suppose that's maybe more of the Australian kind of coming out of me, is that even though I've worked in tech, and of course I've worked in hospitality in my life as well, we've always had a customer first approach. So we have, a phone number people can call, leave a voicemail. If we're doing business development and sales, we, set meetings with people very, very early on in the process. You don't have to trade £1 million worth of capital in order to get a call or a FaceTime from one of our team to reach out and talk to your account manager. So we like reaching out to people and connecting with people in kind of almost an old school finance broker kind of relationship, instead of just relying on, some chatbot sitting in a support tool. And that's what kind of separates us, I think, from a lot of other firms in the UK, is that we spend a lot of time focusing on our customers.
Got it. Thank you, Jeff. Tell us, is Coinpass, sorry, is it for UK only, or is it like the wider European Union? Just give us a sense of where people can use the platform.
Yeah, so we only market in the UK because of the licensing and financial promotions requirements of both the UK and the EU. So to do specific marketing in other jurisdictions, you would need a specific license in that country or a MiCA license covering all of Europe. So we only focus on the UK primarily. I think at 90+% of our user base is UK. We do have some users out of Europe, but they are kind of onboarding on a UK platform with UK law. And they might find us kind of organically, or there might be a UK user or a UK firm that has a business in Europe that still wants to onboard with us. We support pound sterling trading and euro via bank transfers and also card deposits and PayPal very soon as well. But I would say our focus is the UK, but there's nothing stopping us from onboarding from other countries. We always take kind of a risk-based approach, depending on licensing and depending on a few other factors. But while our focus is the UK, we can accept people from further afar.
Yeah, got it. And give us a sense, Jeff, of I guess the kind of the different customer groups that you target. Like, I'm sure you make the platform available to all sorts of different levels, from retail, corporate, institutional. But yeah, give us a sense of how you see those different buckets.
So when we launched the platform originally, this is 2017, we came up with the idea. 2018, we kind of launched it, and the goal back then was to sell one Bitcoin to one person, one transaction. And at 10:30 on the first morning, we're like, oh, what do we do now? So it happened very, very quickly, and we thought at that kind of period of time that the core audience in the UK or in crypto in general was kind of your 20 to 30-year-olds that kind of wanted to get in nice and quickly, get their position, kind of get out, buy some Bitcoin, buy some ETH, etc. What we found, though, because of our, we didn't even think it was a USP back then, but it turned into one of our main USPs, is that people in the UK that wanted all of that, UK-centric kind of services tended to be, slightly more affluent. They were business owners, property investors, consultants, doctors, lawyers, gold bullion dealers, supercar dealers, you name it, that wanted to work with a UK bank and a UK firm and etc. And our target age group, the age group that we tend to appeal to the most now, you would say, is probably people in their 30s to 60s, I would say. They're sometimes doesn't not necessarily, but they might be high school to college, university educated, either work in a well-paying job or run a business, a consultancy, a property investor, etc. And they kind of understand our compliance requirements and why we have to do them with the FCA and with everything else. And they just tend to deposit and trade higher volume than an individual retail user. We can still onboard anyone in the UK over 18 years old. We do individual accounts as well as corporates, but we found that our bread and butter is on onboarding limited companies and a specific type of pension scheme called a SSAS pension as well. So that's where most of the focus of Coinpass goes to. And we'll talk a little bit more about the journey story later. But after we were acquired by OANDA in 2023, we basically used the OANDA brand for our retail products, and we use Coinpass for our business product.
Right. Okay. Fascinating. So it'd be interesting to hear your perspectives, Jeff, on, I guess, how people in the UK think. I know it's kind of a broad spectrum, I'm sure, broad spectrum of opinions, but is there a difference in terms of how you see, I guess, attitudes to crypto investing or Bitcoin investing in the UK versus, say, what is happening in America, where all the, the headlines are, and you've got, the Trumps doing their stuff with crypto, you got all the big Bitcoin ETFs, BlackRock, etc. So America gets all the headlines, but what are the sort of the attitudes in the UK?
Yeah, so I think the attitude in the UK is, I mean, it really depends on how you classify a kind of UK user versus a US user. I think in the UK, there's still, a level of, financial entitlement and stuff like that, where, if you're wealthy and affluent, you can get access to certain services. And if you're not a sophisticated investor, you have to kind of be kind of nattied and taken care of a little bit. And that really annoys a lot of the general population. So I think the crypto uptake in the UK is definitely a lot lower than it is in the US because of the lack of banking support. I mean, even when I came to this country from Australia, it took me 8 months to open up a bank account. So I was using my Australian debit card to pull out cash every single week. So some people feel relatively unbanked. If they want to invest in something, they're kind of restricted for doing it. You get calls from your bank. You have to, explain what you want to do. Oh, I want to buy some Bitcoin because not that it's fashionable, not that it's a fad, is because I've learned a bit about it and it's something that I want to put some money in, but yet you're kind of barred from doing that. But if you have a decent amount of capital in your account, if you have a house or a mortgage or whatever, all your financial products kind of change and become a little bit more open. Even still to this day, if I looked at car financing, for instance, because of my visa status, I'm charged an extra 1.5% if I were to go get car financing. So it's very, very unfair depending kind of what stage of your career you're at. Or kind of what's in your bank balance. I've even seen videos online of people wanting to get, £2,000 out to buy a bike, and their bank is stopping them from withdrawing their own cash. So it's a little bit of a sad state of affairs. Not only that, but the regulation in the UK has been exceptionally slow. We had pretty much no regime in 2018 when we launched, so it was kind of a bit wild, wild west. We chose to launch our platform and kind of pretend like we were a prime broker. So the way that we do our onboarding, the way we do our compliance, our risk, our KYC hasn't changed too much, I would say, over the years. We've never had to drastically re-onboard everybody. But the first FCA kind of registration program came about in 2020, wasn't really ready till 2021. And I think ours was probably one of the fastest applications that was completed, and ours took 18 months. We were quite lucky that we were the third in the UK to obtain the license. People that acquired them a bit earlier than us either had an EMI license or they only offered 2 or 3 tokens. When we got our license, I think we had 18 tokens on the platform. So we had quite a robust offering, and we were doing businesses as well. And now I think even from 2021 to now, there are still only less than 45-ish companies on the FCA register. And we're still going to be waiting another 2 years until we get a full regulation. Now that's meant to be, fair to users, a positive step forward for the UK markets, etc. But if people are penalised and kept away from the market for investing in something they want to spend their own money on, um, you know, there's no halo effect for the companies that want to do it right. The companies like us that work exceptionally hard and employ, very good talent and spend all the money on all the top end systems, yet banks still say crypto is too risky for you, you're not allowed. Versus you go to in the US, they've got regulations in place. They've got a crypto first attitude. They want to bring innovation and investment and tax revenue and all those kind of things into their market. And that's why they're prospering a lot more than the UK is.
Yeah, very well said. And so you describe yourself as a corporate crypto account exchange, and you talked before about the being the best or only UK exchange for business investors and pension investors. So just explain. Yeah, I'm fascinated what you mean by UK business and investors, because that you're not talking about treasury company investing necessarily, or are you?
No, not specifically. We have had a number of calls about them recently. People that are holding a fair bit of Bitcoin and want to start a treasury business. So it's very in vogue at the moment. And we'll get on to, I think, the reason why they're becoming so popular, I think, in a minute. But when we say businesses, we mean like anything like a single director limited company. So you might be a property investor, you might be a consultant, you might be a contractor. You have a limited company because that's where your invoicing, your billing goes to. And from that limited company, you either take a salary or you take a dividend, but the limited company is an entity. That entity has a bank account with the business name on it. And we find those type of users is become our bread and butter over the last kind of 5 or 6 years. While we were doing both retail, individual people and businesses, we found we onboarded kind of the same amount almost on a one-to-one. And now these days we onboard more of the retail individuals than the business entities. But the business entities are far more stickier in terms of you can't get a business account on exchanges just anywhere. In fact, a number of our competitors have stopped doing business accounts due to the complexity. But once they're on board and you know they're a good company, you know they're a good user, we've done all our checks, they tend to deposit and trade far higher volume than an individual, because usually a lot of their wealth is tied up in their business. So, for instance, you might have a property company. They've got 5, 6 properties in that business that has significant cash flows because they're getting rental income every single month. And they're kind of starting to take a hedge against fiat currencies, because the way that they're printing them right now, the global money supply is spiking towards all-time highs. The US, the UK, Europe, Asia are all printing money based on kind of thin air and trust. And they see the value of that, the buying power of that fiat currency, decaying by 8 to nearly 10% a year. So keeping 5,000, 10,000, 100,000 pounds in your account without making it work for you is actually costing them value. They start to look at different things like, do they want to be a full-time trader? Well, not really. Do I want to get more property exposure? Like, maybe. Do I want to go and put that money into the stock market? I was like, well, what stocks and shares am I really going to choose? Or I could choose a very simple to understand asset like Bitcoin. And that's probably our biggest volume token is Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana. But they choose Bitcoin because it's a limited supply. There's only ever going to be 21 million of them. More than 91% of the supply is already out there in circulation. So it's kind of, I kind of liken it to land in the UK. They're not making any more of it. Most of it's built on top of, most of it's been, zoned for agricultural or for, very, very small pieces left for development. There's simply just not enough to go around. The average compound growth rate of Bitcoin from 2010 to now, forget all the really big spiky years and also include the down years we've had, the annual compounding growth rate of Bitcoin is 20% plus per year. It's not financial advice, but if you go and look at the data and look at it over a long period of time of when you would hold a long-term investment like a property, it's a very compelling case for, buying something, holding something, keeping it in cold storage and leaving it alone and let the market do what it does. I doubt, and I think now specifically when we talk about the Bitcoin treasury companies and other things happening in the US, if it's still a high risk asset or it's, a gamble or a Ponzi or whatever, then why are so many treasury companies trying to buy as much as they can as fast as possible? Why is BlackRock acquiring over, 50 to 100 million of it a day? Why are all these ETFs so successful? Because they're trying to buy a very, very scarce asset that everyone else wants to buy that obviously has a lot of unique properties with it. So it's kind of one of those things. Do you want to sit in cash and let it decay? Or do you want to invest into a relatively new asset that's only 15 years old, but has a coded in scarcity to it, where there's going to be a point where it's not going to be available to buy anymore?
Yeah, that's a lot to take in there, Jeff. I enjoyed that. Thank you very much. Bitcoin, the compelling case indeed. And yes, indeed. I mean, I think it's pretty clear that Bitcoin is the one asset that is, just very difficult to beat. And even in the crypto asset space, I think there's a much wider growing recognition now that, very, very actually difficult to beat Bitcoin.
It's becoming harder and harder to ignore. Yeah, people like to liken it to gold, which is obviously one of its main, I suppose, counterparties in conversation. But even if you had the best radar detectors in the world and you find out where every single speck of gold actually is on Earth, and you could account for all of it, some of it's never going to be available because it's too expensive to mine. Every mine is different. It's got different characteristics, different locations. Who owns the land? What are the licensing? How do you get the machinery out there? How do you get the teams and the people out there? And that price obviously kind of reflects that, versus something like Bitcoin that can be held digitally with a custodian, with your own wallet. It can be flung around the world in a few seconds. Transporting $1 million worth of Bitcoin from wallet to wallet might cost you a dollar, maybe $2. Transferring $1 million worth of gold across the world, well, that's an expensive exercise. So these are some of these other unique properties I talk about, which makes it such a compelling investment class.
Yeah, very much the case. And I've seen you talk about, why some users, perhaps it's in the past, but users have been forced to be traders instead of investors. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so this probably comes down to probably how expectations have kind of changed in the digital age. I remember I actually heard a funny comment the other day. Is that who remembers when you had to pay for a text message? You got like 100 texts a month for free, and then you had to pay for your text messaging. Now it's unlimited, right? As technologies evolve, there's margins compress, everything gets cheaper. It's kind of a race to the bottom as everything kind of starts to evolve. And running a crypto business is kind of no different. And how we've had to kind of position ourselves, to try and support everyone as best we can to build products that people want to use. And obviously, the how people want to invest their capital is completely up to them. Um, but I think especially with the banking side as well, banking is free because the bank uses your money to loan it out and to trade with it, gamble with it, etc. When it comes to a crypto exchange, you've got a lot of very expensive elements just to run and host the platform. And catering to an investor that buys once a month or once a year, you only get one source of revenue from that. If you have a trader that's trading, their capital multiple times a day or multiple times a week, that's a more compelling user for a business to kind of hang on to and cater for. So when you have our banking infrastructure, not cheap, our hosting infrastructure, not cheap, crypto custody, risk, compliance, all the licensing we do with the FCA, all those kind of bits and pieces, onboarding users that only invest once or twice a year, like a Hargreaves Lansdown or like a regular SIP platform, it's not scalable. So there almost has to be a preference for catering to traders rather than investors, only because of a lot of the cost to run the business is so high. It's not to say we're a poor little company. You have to do things a certain way compared to the big boys, but their cost is significantly higher as well. The more countries you want to offer, the more pairs you have to offer. The more trading pairs you offer, the more data and storage you have to have as well. So it's kind of one of those things like how do you build a platform that's not only scalable to the users you want to attract, but also what makes kind of business sense. And I think as the markets evolve and as I think people's tastes evolve and their investment nature evolves, I think people are getting pretty used to being, they might be an investor, but they do a bit of trading as well. Or the way that they employ their capital into the market is they're not just buying once and then kind of setting it, forgetting it. They're setting their exit strategies as well. What's my take profit price and what's my stop loss price? So that's where I think people are going to have to evolve into being traders because it's not scalable for platforms to get one trade per user per year.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. All right. Well, look, Jeff, as we start to finish off this part of the podcast, just for people listening, especially, I guess, in the UK and the EU, if they want to look at your platform, look at what Coinpass offers, potentially sign up and start trading, what is the best way for people to do just that?
Yeah, well, you hit the website, coinpass.com. Nice and simple. You can sign up for an account in just a few minutes. If you're an individual, you'll go onto our OANDA crypto brand. You can sign up instantly in about 5-10 minutes. A business takes a little bit longer because there's a bit more documentation, but you can sign up for that. It takes roughly a couple hours. And then you can buy, sell, hold, trade on our platform 24/7, 365 days a year. We are unfortunately open on Christmas and Boxing Day. It's just one of those things. It's a 24/7 market these days. I don't believe I've had a full day off in about 7 years, but is what it is. And then we've also just recently launched our earning platform as well. So for specific types of tokens like Ethereum, Solana, etc., we can stake them on our platform. And then we have very competitive earn rates where they will attract rewards. So our main social media channel is on LinkedIn. So you can find us on LinkedIn. I'm on there as well. If you want to connect, reach out, have a chat, start up an account, or just chat crypto, please reach out and get in touch.
Awesome. And link is in the show notes, folks. Time to finish up the show, Jeff. And we do that, of course, by running you through the very famous crypto conversation hot take round. Are you up for it?
Yes, please.
Just going to run some questions at you, Jeff. Just want you to give me kind of short, rapid fire, hot take style answers if you like. No right or wrong way to do it. Just a bit of fun. Question 1 for you is, where would you say that you sit on the Bitcoin maximalist to multi-chain opportunist spectrum?
I think I definitely started as multi-chain during the ICO period. I think I held 250 tokens. And now across Bitcoin, my SIPs, my ISAs, my other investment accounts, I'm probably like 90% Bitcoin driven.
Yep. Very well said. Okay, interesting how that happens, isn't it? What would you say, though, Jeff, is your firmest conviction crypto opinion?
Ooh. Um, Past too many. Okay,
No.
here we go. Never trust verify.
Yep. Oh, no, perfect. Very good. Very good. All right. Look, Bill Gates famously said we tend to overestimate what we can accomplish in 2 years and underestimate what we can accomplish in 10. 10 years in crypto is a very long time indeed. Look, anything you like here, crypto, Web3, Coinpass, Bitcoin, what does it look like in 10 years' time?
I'm probably going to quote Michael Saylor on this one, is that inflation is worse than you think, and Bitcoin is better than you know. The more I learn about Bitcoin specifically, it gets me interested in other parts of finance. Believe it or not, I didn't trade my first stock, share, FX, business, anything in my life until 2014. So I've really only been an investor or a trader or anything for about just on 11 years now. Um, I basically got bored of doing overtime for other people's businesses. I wanted to do something for myself. I got into property originally, made a lot of mistakes, realized it's a very people heavy business. And while I do like people and I get along with people, people don't care about anything but themselves. So on the crypto side, I can invest in an asset, I can hold the asset, I can secure the asset. There's a very, very large community around it, regardless of how tribal it can become sometimes, but it's very data driven. And data is something that I'm very good at kind of comprehending and kind of taking into my brain. And I've learned more about finance in the last 7 years than I have the rest of my previous life because I learned about Bitcoin. I learned about all the facets of it, its unique principles, all kinds of different things that leads me on to asking better questions to go and search for better answers. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like the gateway drug, but it's one that has definitely enriched my life I'm not just talking financial perspective, but from me asking better questions and getting better answers across a number of different topics. So
I love it. And that is why they call it the Bitcoin rabbit hole. Next question, Jeff. You've probably heard this quote. It's by William Gibson. He famously said, "The future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed." With that in mind, can you think of an example of the future being here right now, but most people aren't aware of it?
oof, another really good one. Future right here now that being aware of it. I think there was a book I read a long time ago by Harry Dent about boom and bust cycles and how you've got financial cycles, you've got geopolitical cycles, you've got all these other kind of cycles that happen in different kind of time periods. And I think right now we're getting back to one of those volatile ones. The last one was kind of around COVID. No one expected it. Everything went upside down, and yet we survived. We're going through some very, very tough, turbulent times right now globally. And I think if anything, throughout all of those last, kind of two periods, being a part of a larger global community has given me different perspectives, not just on crypto and investing and making money, but also political views and cultural views and openness to other people's opinions and stuff like that. And I think that's the only way you can grow. I think if people kind of focus too much on what they can't control and focus, way too much on stuff that they should only really be aware of and not focusing on the core things of what we can control. I think that's probably, the most influential thing, being present and being aware of what I can control, what I should be aware of, and what's completely outside my control. That's where the kind of future is global learning on a large scale.
I love it. And it brings us nicely to the final question, Jeff, which is what is your favorite science fiction book, film, or TV show?
I think it has to be The Matrix, the whole trilogy. I think I must watch those three movies every 4 or 5 years or so. They're from 1999. Every time I watch it, there's a new layer kind of uncovered a little bit, a little Easter egg, a little hint, the way something's said. That whole digital world with the veneer kind of pulled over our eyes, it has so many different examples about our current world, and that's from a very long time ago. So, yeah, probably the Matrix films, I think.
Yeah, I love that. It's a great answer. Yeah, Matrix. Yeah, it's kind of the forebringer of a lot of things, but simulation theory and yeah,
Simulation theory, all that kind of stuff.
all that stuff.
A lot of people walking around inside the room prison the whole time. Is that money related?
Totally.
Is it work related? There's a lot of different things there.
So much.
You can sit around with a few friends and talk
Take the
about
red
different
pill, take the
perspectives. It
blue
ends
pill.
up being a lot of conspiracy theory stuff, but I think it's a good watch, and I think even if you're a non-sci-fi person, you can still enjoy it. So yeah.
100%. Could not agree more. Thank you, Jeff. Look, hey, this was fun. Thank you for coming and spending some time with us today. An absolute pleasure to talk to you. Just to close it out, again, please do tell people where they can go to engage with the Coinpass platform. And yeah, shout out your various social profiles. Go for gold.
Yeah, for sure. Websites, www.coinpass.com. You can find us on LinkedIn, coinpass.com. I'm on LinkedIn, Twitter a little bit, but mostly on LinkedIn. So please reach out to us there and ask a question. I've been doing this for 8 years professionally, 10 years as an investor, trader, everything on top of that. I'm still learning. The market changes rapidly, the world changes rapidly. And I would say never be afraid to ask what you think might be a stupid question. That's the only way you're ever going to get started.
I love it. Thank you, Jeff. All the best and bye for now.
Thank you, Andy. See you soon.